just for you and me. We going with DLP, DLP for all of me.
I'm Neil Marshall, candidate for the Democratic Labour Party in the constituency of St. Philip South, and I'm here today at Foul Bay. This area of Foul Bay presents an excellent opportunity for persons from this constituency to find their own self-employment. I have some plans for this beach once elected come the 19th of January as the new representative for this constituency. Part of those plans include making a very strenuous lobby that this beach be now included as part of the National Park System of Barbados, and to have its facilities developed so that not only can people from the constituency of St. Philip South or St. Philip enjoy them, but indeed that the entire of Barbados can enjoy this most beautiful and pristine piece of real estate. That presents as well an opportunity for small entrepreneurs who rent out things like beach chairs, umbrellas and so on, and of course you have the beach vendors selling various arts and crafts. This provides an excellent opportunity for them to ply their trade. One of the first things that has to be done with Foul Bay is to ensure that the access to Foul Bay is there for all persons, whether they're pedestrians, whether they are drivers or cyclists, whoever. The road is in possibly the most deplorable state. Parking Bay, for example, is now reduced to just simply rubble, and that cannot be conducive to persons visiting this area. It remains one of the most beautiful places in Barbados. Indeed, it is certainly beautiful and unspoilt. And as I said, I'm lobbying to have it as part of the National Park System. And once that occurs, well then, of course, you can expect that the infrastructure will have to be developed so that not only does it facilitate visitors, but at the same time it does not encroach upon the natural beauty of this area. You need a proper hard surface so that persons can traverse in and out of this Foul Bay beach. Secondly, although it's not traditionally a bathing beach, there still is the need for bathroom facilities inclusive of shower facilities. Not only is it a picnic area, it also provides an area for exercise for many of the residents of St. Philip, and indeed as far as Christchurch, to get the early morning breeze and the sunrise and so on. Residents of St. Philip South and wider Barbados, you have the opportunity on the 19th of January to make 2022 a much happier year than 2021 by going out in your numbers and voting for the Democratic Labour Party, and in St. Philip South, voting for Neil Marshall as your representative.
Biggity. The best pick is S-Way. The best pick is S-Way. The best pick is S-Way. Tell me who's the best pick? David S-Way. Make way for the people's champ, the only ones in Philip West one. Tell me who's the best pick? David S-Way. St. Philip people know this is true. S-Wick always for you. Tell me who's the best pick? David S-Wick. In transport and water, agriculture, economic affairs. He helped build this nation for years. He sweat yellow and blue. S-Wick always for you. So F-U-C-K, tell she I say the best pick is S-Wick. The best pick is S-Wick.
Black blood in me vein, black blood in me vein, black blood in me vein, mass we going insane. Black blood in me vein, black blood in me vein, black blood in me vein. vein. Job we going insane. Cause my mother was a job woman, and she pick up a job man. He give her some job sex. 9 months later, well I was born. Right in a job hospital, I was Christmas job priest. I went to a job college. That's why I did like this. So when I dead, put job on me tombstone. Man, when I dead, put job on me tombstone. What man? I telling you, black blood in me vein. Black blood in me vein. Black blood in me vein. Mass we going insane. Black blood in me vein. Black blood in me vein. Black blood in me vein. Job we going insane. As the guy the chain make the job glad. The kind of fast make the job mad. So do run. When job touch a road, job never ever beg for a woman, cause job will take that lad. So bring a cup to make job rich in your home. Job don't want shame, job don't look for fame. When the job taught in the street, black and star we can change. Job don't beg no friend, job never pretend. As it was in the beginning, so shall it be in the end. So when I dead, put job on me tombstone. Man, when I dead, put job on me tombstone. What man? I telling you, black blood in me vein. Black blood in me vein. Black blood in me vein. Mass we going insane. Black blood in me vein. Black blood in me vein. Black blood in me vein. Job we going insane. The chance now sign job name up there. Sign job name, sign a man, sign job name up there. Man they touch job finger with a golden pen, a golden pen, a golden. Man they touch job finger with a golden pen. Sign job name up there. So when I dead, put job on me tombstone. Man when I dead, put job on me tombstone. What man? I telling you, black blood in me vein. Black blood in me vein. Black blood in me vein. Mass we going insane. Black blood in me vein. Black blood in me vein. Black blood in me vein. Job we going insane. When I dead, put job on me tombstone.
Good night to you, the good folks of Rice's. Good night to all of you that are within my presence, those of you in your homes, and to those of you wherever my voice may reach. We are here tonight, members of the Democratic Labour Party, in this good parish, to ensure that these 3 seats in St. Philip are returned to their rightful place. And indeed, from the sound of things, that seemed very much possible. Before we get deep into the meeting, I want to do one small thing. Upon hearing of the news of the passing of Mary Sargent, better known to us as the Trinidadian lady, a very forceful and a very dynamic representative of this great party who passed away. Let me take this opportunity to wish her family and friends our deepest condolences. Let me also wish all those great members who passed in the last year that are members of this Democratic Labour Party, let me also wish them deep condolences to their family and friends. Ladies and gentlemen, let's have a moment in silence for their passing. Thank you. Tonight, ladies and gentlemen, it can be said that court, certainly this court here at Rice's, which I would refer to as the District S Court, is in session. And we are in session tonight because there is a charge, a number of offenses against Barrister Leon Phillips, hereafter referred to as BLP, and they are being charged against a number of offenses against the people of Barbados. Since 2018, ladies and gentlemen, this Barrister Leon Phillips, was in office and has conducted themselves in such a way as to jeopardize the lives of Barbadians. And tonight, they stand charged. Charge number 1. The BLP is charged that along with 30 other accomplices, they operated a political machinery that proved to be reckless and dangerous to the well-being of the people of Barbados. That their boss, Bess and Burt program, robbed at knife point the small black investors of this country, the NIS, our old age pensioners, the Central Bank of Barbados, and that they rob such persons of large sums of money. Charge number 2, that this BLP robbed our nurses, our natural heroes of this pandemic, of their salaries. That this BLP, charge number 3, conspired with M&M to rip off the treasury of Barbados of millions of dollars to purchase vaccines. Charge number 4, that the BLP, in conjunction with the Red Sea government, unlawfully interfered with a lawful investigation in Deacon's farm in the parish of St. Michael. Love St. Philip so bad, see? Charge number 5, the final charge, that this BLP in 2018 provided a written contract in the form of a manifesto and uttered verbal words to suggest that they were entering into an agreement with the people of Barbados which they knowingly knew that they would not have honored. Those are the 5 charges for which the witnesses that will stand on this platform tonight will present to you. And there are a number of witnesses that will come and attest to these charges. We ask you, the jurors, in your homes, in your cars, and standing before me, to be able to judge them on the 19th of January 2022. Ladies and gentlemen, I will preside as one of the court marshals, and along with me, court marshal number 2 is Walter Maloney. The presiding officer will be transparency and accountability, that's his name. And I now ask you, ladies and gentlemen, as I introduce Mr. Maloney, to speak to you for a brief moment and then to present our first witness. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Maloney.
Thank you, my brother. This is going to be a very interesting evening. First, I'd like to apologize for our late start. It was due to some logistical problems that we would have had, and hopefully we've been able to sort them out. And so, as my brother Sylvan would have said, there's a number of things that we need to put right in this country. And so we're hoping tonight we will start that conversation, and this great party, the Democratic Labour Party, who we all know have always been in the vanguard for the workers of this country, we will then proceed to correct the wrongs that were done. Tonight, I will speak on 2 issues, really, and those are the public service, of which I've been a member for 45 years, I'm now retired, and of course, I cannot not speak on the dearth or the death of the trade union movement in this country. So, without further ado, I know we are running quite late, and I think we need to introduce our first speaker. But during the night, as it progresses, we will offer solutions, hopefully, to some of the murder problems that we are being faced with in this country. And so the first speaker tonight will be Brother Wood. Is it Brother Wood? The first speaker? Right, it will be Brother Wood, who we all know as a former MP of this constituency, and also a former member, a former Minister of Agriculture and also Education. And so I would like to introduce Brother Wood. So please put it together for Brother Anthony Wood.
Good night, ladies and gentlemen. Let me also take this opportunity to apologize for the late start. Though we will have a truncated meeting, the substance of what is to be delivered from this platform will in no way be diminished. If it means that we will have a reduced number of speakers, so be it. But we intend that at the conclusion of this meeting, that we would have placed a case before you for Mr. Marshall, Dr. Eswick, and Michael Lashley, and the Democratic Labour Party. Let me start by saying that the gloves are off tonight for me. Because it seems to me, and from what has been reported to me, that though I am no longer involved in elective politics, that the whole brigade of the Barbados Labour Party seems to be targeting me because of my message of truth, my message of the Barbados Labour Party's hypocrisy, deceit, lies, propaganda, bullshit, wastage of the taxpayers' money, and everything that I thought the Barbados Labour Party did not stand for when I participated so vigorously in the last general election on behalf of the Barbados Labour Party in the capacity of the Deputy Campaign Manager. Last night, forgive me if I pull up something in my phone, because the first message to reach me this morning was a very short clip from no less a person, my former colleague, Prime Minister Mia Motley. And in 6 hours last night, in her attempt to stop a drowning in the rear, Miss Motley made bold to say this.
I want to thank Indar Weir. And you know, history will be kind to Indar, contrary to the bitterness of Anthony Wood. I don't get tired. Woody is just sad that Indar's record will eclipse his as both MP for St. Philip South and Minister of Agriculture.
Indar's record will eclipse mine as both the Member of Parliament for St. Philip South and the Minister of Agriculture. You know, I sent this thing to a number of persons, and a lot came back to me. Prime Minister Motley is a habitual liar. Prime Minister Motley is a demonic liar. Prime Minister Motley is a pathological liar. Prime Minister Motley is a serial liar. Those are the comments that have come back to me. And ladies and gentlemen, I came here to, before I heard this, I was thinking about coming here and speaking in glowing terms of serious issues pertaining to finance and economics and the retardation of the country. But I think I have a duty, because this is not only an insult to me, but it's also an insult to all those people who work so closely with me for us to achieve so much in my 2 terms as a member of Parliament. It really is a crying shame that a Prime Minister who knows me well still could continue on this trajectory to deceive persons. Now, I have made it my business to participate in this election campaign very vigorously with Neil Marshall, for obvious reasons. Because we in the constituency have learned a few things about Indar Weir during the last couple of years. But I probably, or whoever did this report card probably anticipated that Motley would come out here and try to tell lies on me, because as far as they're concerned, Woody has them on the back foot with all these speeches he's been giving in the last week and a half or so. So they come up St. Philip to lie on me. Well, ladies and gentlemen, this is going to be a fairly atypical type of speech, because I am going to take my time, because when I step off of here, our rear must be buried once and for all. Once and for all. Once and for all. The first thing I'm going to give you is a report card which was constructed on Indar Weir, the most ineffective member of Parliament St. Philip South ever had. And I read. Normally I stand up and I don't need a note or anything, but this is important. Because this meeting is being streamed and is going into as many houses in Barbados as possible. I must tell you that this report card went viral at a rapid pace, and it has gone into many a household in St. Philip South. And I shall read it out and then elaborate on it. The constituents of St. Philip South reposed tremendous confidence in Mr. Indar Weir during the last general election. Though a relative unknown to the constituency and a strongly defeated candidate by Mr. Michael Lashley in the 2013 general election, Mr. Weir got the endorsement of previous two-term and highly successful Barbados Labour Party representative for St. Philip South, Mr. Anthony Wood. Such an endorsement, along with a multiplicity of promises by Mr. Weir, resulted in a resounding victory for Mr. Weir over the incumbent Adriel Braffett. Indeed, the plans and programs committed to by Mr. Weir, as contained in his election circular, are as follows, and I'll go slowly. Paving of minor roads to provide easy access to homes and businesses, economic arrangements through small business formation, user-friendly pavements for the differently able, roundabout at Beulah Junction, elderly home improvement and expansion, support mechanism for the needy, back to school, daily meals, utility services and payments, drainage improvement across the constituency to prevent flooding, especially in Long Bay and Foul Bay, use of apps and social media training, voice training and music workshops, improvement and expansion of community centers, floodlights for playing fields, and last but certainly not least, St. Philip Music Festival. All of these things you would find at the back of the circular, which was sent to every voter in this constituency during the last election. Other plans included the provision of natural gas to the heavily populated Ruby Park and Union Development and other areas, along with employment opportunities for the constituents. What has been delivered? From the above-mentioned list of promises, precious little has been achieved. A meager back-to-school program focusing on low-value vouchers, repairs of a very few homes, paving of 2 tenantry roads in Gemswick, a few employment opportunities for mainly low-skilled workers in government division and as cleaning programs, provision of food vouchers mainly through the Sandy Lane Trust program and government funding, and a small, dangerously located park in Gemswick are Mr. Weir's main achievements. 10 of the 12 listed items in the election circular have not been touched. Further, the main roads and minor roads remain in a terrible state of disrepair. Most notable of these roads include the Foul Bay Beach Road, Foul Bay Main Road, Bel Air Main Road, gaps off Long Bay, Harmony Lodge, Lashley's Road, Tenantry Roads and Curtains number 3 and Nursery number 1, 4 rows, sections of Ocean City, Tenantry Roads in Bel Air, Greenwich Road Union, Tenantry Road in Caveland, Tenantry Road in Rock Hall, and gaps off Ruby Tenantry Road. The natural gas projects for Ruby Park and Union Development and other areas remain undelivered. Mr. Weir has also managed to lose the support of previous Representative Mr. Anthony Wood, as demonstrated in the public disclaimer notice of May the 24th, 2020. His very poor record as a member of Parliament, along with the numerous false promises, make him the worst representative of St. Philip South by a country mile. Many constituents are at a loss as to why such a poor representative will choose to offer himself as a candidate in the election of January the 19th, 2022. The constituents have gotten the opportunity to understand why Mr. Weir was so handsomely defeated by Michael Lashley in St. Philip North, where he lives, in the 2013 election. He will suffer the same fate on January the 19th, 2022. The good people of St. Philip South deserve much better. I took the time to read that out, right? Because I really don't take too kindly to my former colleague, Miss Motley. I know she has a voracious appetite for lying, all right? But she can lie about others. But once she oversteps the line and she lies about me and brings the constituents of St. Philip South who work so hard with me to deliver so much, I know that it is almost impossible for Motley to restrain herself from lying to the Barbadian people. And it is because of that voracious appetite for continuing to be the stranger to the truth will be one of the reasons she will come down from ruling this country on January the 19th, 2022. I said the gloves are off, and I have a number of things to say. So if we need to cut out one or two speakers, this will strengthen these hands, and we will ensure that these 3 seats will return to the Democratic Labour Party by Wednesday night. Now, I take my representation very serious. Very, very serious. Some persons would say I took it too serious. But I kept some documents that I would have distributed to the constituents when I was the MP. And they used to call a review of performance documents. I kept one for the period January 1999 to March 2003, and I kept one for May 2003 to December 2007. I don't even have to stand up here, but I have to do it to make the point of what a nasty liar Motley is. I have to do it because she was very disingenuous, and she knew, because she was a member of cabinet, when we were offloading in a decent and honest way the government resources in order to improve the infrastructure and to do everything that these constituents were able to achieve under my watch, and in some cases in concert with me through their help. We did plenty things up here, but I don't want it. I want to compare oranges with oranges, right? Oranges with oranges. So I'm not even going to go to the second term. I will stay with the first term like Mr. Weir. And this document was structured along these lines: building social cohesion and stimulating interest in community activities, infrastructural development, road construction and rehabilitation, installation of streetlights, installation of natural gas, improvement of drainage conditions, improving the living conditions of poverty-stricken families through a vigorous house repair replacement program, construction of waterborne facilities, and installation of water and electricity. 4, improving the bus service, creating employment opportunities, providing recreational facilities, and providing housing solutions. Now, this is a fairly lengthy document, but this just gives you an opportunity to make a simple comparison between what we as a constituency achieved under my watch between 1999 and 2003. So the list is long, but in terms of roads, we were able, in those just over 4 years, the same period more or less with Weir, to have asphalted 14 surfaces: Gemswick, Foul Bay, Pelican Drive, Harlington, Nursery, Number 2, 4 Rose, Caveland, Ruby Tenantry, Casuarina Drive, Ruby Development, Belleair Cross Road, 6 roads to Woodburn, 6 roads to Curtains, Highway End, Crane to Rock Hall, and when we closed, Belleair was in progress and Crane was in progress. We also provided 5 concrete services: Nursery Land, Mangrove Land, Belleair Tenantry, Bentley Tenantry, Cane Garden, Link Road, Greenwich Road, and Foul Bay was in progress when the election came. We were able to provide almost about 600 streetlights in the first term when I had ministerial responsibility for rural development. In the terms of natural gas, we were able to install natural gas like it was going out of style. Natural gas installation took place at 6 roads to Curtains via 4 rows, Nursery number 2, 4 rows, Mangrove Land, Foul Bay Main Road, Curtains Main Road to Crane via Rice's, Curtains 2 to St. Martin's Church, and the project at Crane Development was in progress at the time of the election. So we improved the bus service to Ruby Development, took the buses into Ruby Development, buses into Delman Valley, Curtains number 3, Foul Bay, Rice's, Headings. That is, we brought the Oystons bus from Oystons to call Savannah right up to Foul Bay and come around and butt out down by Israel Clark shop. And Oldbury Terrace, that got the buses going up there and into Highland when that part of the constituency was in the constituency then. In terms of employment opportunity, through the efforts of the parliamentary representative, 158 full-time positions were secured in just over those 4 years, and 253 persons gained part-time employment during the review period. Many more employment opportunities were created through the granting of loans by the Rural Development Commission and other public and private financial institutions. In terms of recreational facilities, a recreational park was established at Crane Development. Benches and tables were placed at Foul Bay Beach. The bushing was done at Oldbury Woods in preparation for the establishment of a public park. A recreational park will soon be established at Harmony Lodge. That was in progress, and the Pavilion Community Center at Rice's had been delayed at that time because of legal action taken by a resident. But you see, that action was placed to the side, and look where we are. Early in the second term, this is all of my handiwork here. Look. This is my handiwork here. So we go down providing of housing solutions, a groundbreaking ceremony for the Elmer Park housing project at 6 rows. 191 houses would have been constructed in phase 1 and a further 353 in phase 2. This project caters to low and middle income earners. The National Housing Corporation had approved 2 projects, 32 terrace units at 6 rows and 121 solutions right there at Rice's. Both projects are expected to commence during that calendar year. Other programs and projects included the distribution of over 400 cans to reduce the incidence of indiscriminate dumping, the repair and upgrade to Princess Margaret Secondary School, the construction of a pavilion at Princess Margaret Secondary School, the paving of the St. Martin's Four Roads Primary School Yard, the staging of an annual senior citizens luncheon, the staging of an annual Christmas party for children. And the list goes on and on. In terms of community sports facilities, we hosted an Anthony Wood Independence football competition for 9 years, Anthony Wood Independence basketball competition, an Anthony Wood Independence netball competition, and an Anthony Wood Independence domino competition. And with the Sunrise Community Group, we had an Anthony Wood tape ball cricket competition. And so that is just a flavor for what I was able to achieve with these constituents in my first term. And of course, you all remember that the most active member of parliament in all 30 constituencies would have been me. So when my former colleague, I don't even think that she, in her wildest dreams, believed what she said when she indicated to her partying followers last night that Indora's record as a member of parliament would eclipse mine. I took the time to do this, right? because I am firm in the belief that Motley wants to get rid of Weir from her Member of Parliament list. And she did it deliberately so that I will respond in this way and expose that useless vagabond for what he is worth, so that by the time I step off of this stage and this meeting is finished tonight, Indar Weir is buried once and for all in this constituency. But it doesn't stop there, because she also compared him. I mean, it's a great insult to me, I must say. And Mayor has done a lot of strange things in her life, and the rest of speakers will get to talk about acts of hypocrisy and deceit and lies and propaganda and all sort of things that I would be talking about in the other speeches of mine that I was talking about even before I got here tonight. But she overstepped the line again. The most inept and useless and waste member of Parliament who called himself a Minister of Agriculture is Indar Weir. The man is clueless. Agriculture development policy is all way over his head. As a matter of fact, when I spoke to some of the senior officers at the ministry that I was resigning from BADMC, you know what they tell me? Some of them told me, Woody, don't stay at BADMC and see if you can get Motley to get rid of him. I was worth more to the agriculture sector, just as the chairman of BADMC, than Weir was as the Minister of Agriculture and Food Security. You can imagine that? And senior officers tell me, Woody, don't go, man. We know you. Try and see if Mayor can get rid of that waste. So this is Indar Weir's record as a Minister of Agriculture. If these are the only things my time allows me to go to, I don't mind. Because when I finish, it got to be buried. Report card on Indar Weir as Minister of Agriculture and Food Security. Since the Barbados Labour Party came to office on May 24, 2018, the Minister of Agriculture and Food Security was given a few important tasks. First was the sugar industry transformation model. This objective was to find a new financing and management arrangement for the sugar industry, which would reduce the dependence of the sugar industry on government funding. After 3.5 years in a consultancy for in excess of $100,000, the requested model has not been provided. It is informative that the consultant is the treasurer of the St. Philip South branch of the Barbados Labour Party. Also, the individual was the deputy chairman of the board of the Barbados Agriculture Management Company, the body commissioning the consultancy, and he is the current general manager of BAMC. If Motley wanted to say something about what eclipsed my performance, it is this sort of nastiness that he should have talked about, but don't drag my stewardship in the constituency into it. Now, that sugar industry transformation model was supposed really to be anchored by an amalgamation between the Barbados Agriculture Management Company and the Barbados Sugar Industry Limited, which is the private farmers' body. The whole idea was to recognizing that the sugar industry continued to be a financial burden on Barbadian taxpayers, was to get it off the dependence, heavy dependence on the consolidated fund, and indeed to have the private sector managing it more and putting in more money in the sugar industry. Of course, that is a big ticket item, and where intellect is down on the floor, so he could never produce that. That is a big ticket item. I gave him some tips at one management meeting I attended, but of course they went straight over his head. But the project is still outstanding. The consultancy for about $100,000, that has been completed. The report has been submitted, and Ms. Motley last September, in a public statement, is still waiting for the transformation model, which could lead to a proper prospectus being produced so that the private sector could take some interest in the new financing and management arrangement for the sugar industry, and the taxpayers won't have to put in so much money in running a failing sugar industry. Second is the Farmers Empowerment and Enfranchisement Drive Program. Man, let me start reading these things and talk. I get tired with that. The second thing was this feed program. When I got to be a DMC, we were excited about this flagship agricultural development program, which would have seen some new agricultural entrepreneurs being given land via a formal land lease arrangement from BADMC. The concept document I saw as the chairman and the other directors, it was a tightly drafted document for 150 farmers. I approved that because I thought that you first start small and then you build out, where you get to know what the teething problems are, wrestle them to the ground, and then you expand. Something came back to me. Man, Motley Motley said, man, scale up the damn thing, man. You know, she like things grand, but not done properly. Grand especially if they're projects of a lucrative nature, heading straight to the white people who she cussed in the last election campaign. That is what she likes. She say one thing in the morning, and not even in the evening, man. By late morning, she capitulated and she said something different. So she got the whole country confused, and she has done that time and again. So she has distinguished herself now as a leader of a country who can be trusted. And a leader of a country who can be trusted, and one who is taking a turn in the nurses, one who continues to be anti-Christian, one who continues to think that Christianity and Christian principles should not be respected. This country, and let me say it loud and clear, because I keep saying it, a leader of a country who has little respect for the church, church leaders, Christianity, Christian principles, and Christian principles help to build this country and to make us the type of people we are. And this is the first time in part of governance in Barbados that I have seen a leader and a government could be so anti-Christian and so anti-church leaders. And if we don't remove Motley and the Barbados Labour Party on Wednesday, this country is doomed to further demise. This government also has shown morality through the winter. And a government and a leader that seems not to have any moral minimum, that is a set of people who are leading a country to further disaster. And that is what is at stake, you know. I keep saying that this election is not only about Neil Marshall defeating Weir, Eswick defeating Kay, and Michael defeating Dr. Brown. This election has a larger and a much bigger purpose. This purpose is to get this country back on some trajectory where it has regained its soul and its way. Barbados is lost under Mayor Bartley and the Barbados Labour Party. It has lost its soul and it has lost its way. And all of you, if when I like Barbados, when I have a duty to get as many persons who also like Barbados, and who like fairness and economic justice, and who like decency, who like transparency, who like accountability, and who like proper governance, you need to get them to come and vote and demonstrate that their backs are to the wall, but they're bringing their backs off the wall because Motley keep pushing you and humiliating you and talking down to you and ridiculing you. Like what's happening to the nurses. The Barbados Labour Party manifesto for 2018, which I read from cover to cover, included a better deal for a particular class of public servants, one of which was the nurses. And you see what's happening. Spitefulness, vindictiveness. That could be vindictive with me because I have used the educational system well, and a lot of people have invested money in me to educate me. And I want nothing from Motley, from anybody, any political leader. Nothing from them. I am on the side of those Barbadians whose minds have been battered, whose socioeconomic circumstances have been lowered, and who seem to be operating against all the odds. Don't care how they try to get up. They just keep being pushed back down by this wicked and vindictive administration led by Mayor Motley. So this feed program, that was supposed to carry 150 farmers. She set it back up, scaled it up to 2,000. And you know, after 3 years and a half, you know how many farmers got access to land? Out of a desire on the part of Ms. Motley to have 2,000 farmers placed on land, less than 100 farmers have been placed on small lots, not big enough for them to make a sustainable living for their families. Less than 100. And the majority of those 100 farmers, they don't have access to irrigation water. So it means that their projects can't even start. They've been given land via a piece of paper, a lease. But they can't make good the lease because they can't give practical expression to what is on the lease because they don't have access to irrigation water. And she is thanking Indar for his performance as a Minister of Agriculture. But you know why she has to thank him? Because he is part of a very useless, large cabinet that glorifies her and who are frightened for her. But you know I'm not. So that's why she has to make me a target. So she got all of these useless people in a cabinet. In economics, we call them disguisedly unemployed. Meaning they produce nothing, the total output. Their marginal product is zero for some of them. And they glorify her. The country is sinking, and she's thanking the Minister of Agriculture who has produced nothing. So it says a lot about her. She is in the business of gaining no results. So she's thanking people who are producing nothing. That is where this country has come to. I started the cabinet with Arthur, 15 or so of us, and we worked tirelessly to pull this country around. And Arthur understood what was required to fast track and to advance Barbados' social economic development. And he worked us hard, and we enjoyed doing it too. And Arthur didn't have to come in public and thank nobody. Arthur's record and the Barbados Labour Party record on the one Arthur spoke for itself. But she come with nothing to show, but a lot of nastiness and poor performance. And she thanked coming in 6 years, you know. So you really want to thank the man down in town. Come up in St. Philip and telling these foolish lies. Another thing that Ray was asked to do. This medicinal cannabis industry. This was supposed to be a new revenue earner for the government. And all sorts of hullabaloo took place. And they want to use something, you know. About 7 or 8 people work in some cannabis licensing authority. The one that's headed by Chantel, Dr. Chantel Monroe Knight or something like that. Chantel is a good girl. I know her well. But none of you can ever tell me where you saw those positions advertised. None of you can tell me where you saw those positions advertised. You have a man who is the president of CDUSAB, a man called Edwin O'Neill. You know he's a security chief or security officer of the Cannabis Licensing Authority. Not a single license has been issued yet. So you don't know, I don't know what it is he trying to secure. But he getting paid. And it's 2 years of payment, almost $1 million spent on bureaucracy for that Cannabis Licensing Authority and that medicinal cannabis project. And not a damn license, not one, has been issued. And the Barbados Labour Party can get voted out and not a single license would be issued for that project. But he has some other things to do. You remember, I went public with this nastiness that took place at BADMC when I left. In relation to the chicken wings, I spent 2 years at BADMC fighting the forces from all angles to stop the chicken wings prices from being increased. And I did well because they were never increased. But you know, a couple of weeks after I resigned, they stopped importing chicken wings for 2 months, 2.5 months. And when they resumed the importation, you know what happened? They cut out the small person. Verona and all of them get cut out from accessing chicken wings. But the price of them, the walk-ins got cut out, the households got cut out, the mini-marts got cut out, the itinerant food vendors got cut out, the food vendors who set up on weekends, they got cut out. So they cut them out because I was replaced by a white man. You know, white people don't think like me. Because I got involved in public life to stop poor people from being poor. But white people don't think like me, all right? And I could understand that. That's why you don't keep company with them. But I can tell you that when they resumed the sale of the chicken wings, a box of chicken wings went from $132.25 to $160. And now a box of chicken wings costs about $200. And you can't get it because the majority of them go straight to the wholesalers. Straight to the wholesalers. And Hal and Verona and my mate up Bel Air was laying all the rest about here. They can't afford to sell chicken wings anymore because if they have to buy them from Western, they got or Jason Jones or Price Mart, they got to pay like $250, $260 a case, twice the amount that I had the prices kept at, despite all the pressure coming from all angles. And all it took for one man to go, and some wicked people get what they want with oppressive policies to destroy the small persons in this country. That is what the Barbados Labour Party is about. But they tell me to come off. Another nasty thing that they did, another very nasty thing that they did, and that's why we got lawyers like Neil and Hal Gollop in them. The manager at Barbados Agriculture Credit Trust, you can imagine, on the 25th of February last year, a fellow called Danny Jordan, I can call his name, the board met with Danny and agreed, because I have the minutes from the board meeting, and agreed to extend Danny Jordan's contract for 1 year on the same terms. Danny had worked there for 12 or 13 years. While Danny was awaiting the formal contract to sign, some clever person, I don't know who it is, must have sounded his or her voice that under no condition and notwithstanding the board's verbal commitment to Danny, that Danny will not stay at BACT. You know, on the 22nd of March, they gave Danny Jordan his marching orders. They gave him an offer of a 6 months extension as a consultant, getting 60% of the pay he was getting as the manager. And you know who they were clearing the way for with that nastiness that obviously will be the subject of court action? They were clearing the way for a man who does not have the qualifications for Danny's job. Okay. They were clearing the way, and that person happens to be, is acting in the position. The vacancy notice says that the successful candidate should possess a bachelor's degree or equivalent qualification in business, a minimum of 10 years experience in a senior management position, and it goes down like that. You know the other items, but I gotta come down. You know the fellow that they're clearing the way for? You know he's the president of the St. Philip South branch of the Barbados Labour Party? The man doesn't even know where KFL is. And Danny Jordan, get runway from down there to facilitate a man who does not have the qualifications for the position, you know. And when I talked to Glenn Clark and said, but how you all can treat the man so bad? Glenn Clark tell me, Woody, man, to tell me to do that. And then when the matter go to court, I would have gotten my position in Canada. And if the taxpayers got to pay a full year's salary for forcing it out, that ain't got nothing to do with me because I would be in Canada already. You can imagine? That is the viciousness and the nastiness in this man without any qualification, commensurate with what is required and what came out in the vacancy notice. This man is posing off and driving about at the taxpayer's expense a fancy truck. And Danny Jordan got to fight the case in court with high-powered lawyers to get his just deserve. That is the Barbados Labour Party's way, let me tell you that. That is the Barbados Labour Party's way. Nastiness and viciousness and deceit and propaganda and lies and effort to don't join with me. And Marshall and Eswick and Lashley and follow them. Come with me. If it ever happen that the Barbados Labour Party is returned to power, do not tell me that I did not warn you all. Ladies and gentlemen, I have to stop. But before I come down, I have to endorse Lee Marshall. I made a mistake last time in endorsing the Norwegian because I didn't listen to the people in St. Philip North. I had my eyes on the prize. You know, the bigger picture was to let the country get a new team of economic managers because the DLP was struggling at the time. But they're better prepared now. They're much better prepared now. I know that. And I endorse that vagabond Weir, not knowing much about him. But you know, I had to go back to the people in St. Philip North, Church Village, Marley Vale, Bayfield, out by the King George V Park, and humbly apologize to them for not listening to them during the last general election campaign. I had to put a disclaimer notice in the papers for $908.04 to disassociate myself and disavow myself from Mr. Weir. I also had to give a profound apology for my grave error in judgment in endorsing and supporting Weir and commending Weir to these constituents. I ain't too big to do that. I did it. But I have a man here from down by me in Four Roads where I grew up called Lee Marshall. Lee Marshall is from good stock. Very good stock. I knew his father well before him. I knew his grandmother well before him. He's from good stock. He's a very shy man, like how he was when I started out, but obviously you can see I ain't shy no more. But Neil Marshall is an attorney at law. He's from good stock. Neil Marshall taught governance and politics at BCC, and I used to see him at the university years ago, intern upon the campus to deliver lectures in governance and politics. Are you doing something in economics and finance and public policy? Neil Marshall is an academic in his own right. Neil Marshall also worked for Dr. Eswick as his personal assistant for 6 years when David had his ministerial positions. I can stand here and unreservedly commend Neil Marshall to all of you because this is a man who brings something to the table. And this man is extremely worthy of my support. And I have been traversing from Long Bay right down to Rock Hall. The last 4 days I spent down Rock Hall with the squatters, having some good conversations with them. And I can tell you that this man, Lee Marshall, who I am commending to you all, will indeed do a very good job. So I want all of you to join with me in giving Neil Marshall your full support, because one of the things that must happen is that this constituency must be rid of this waste of time in their rear. I'm obliged to you.
Yeah! Yeah! Yeah!
Let us hear it for Brother Anthony Wood. And it is clear that to err is human. And so misjudging someone's character is not necessarily a flaw, but once you correct it, then it is okay. and you speak about wickedness and vindictiveness, and I can tell you that there are persons who are working in the public service in this country who have suffered from wickedness and vindictiveness. There are persons who have been overlooked in the public service, not because they were not qualified, but just because some person felt that their father or their mother had belonged to a political party that do not wear red. That is the reality in this country. And so when they set about to neuter the trade union movement in Barbados, it was not perhaps. That was a clear strategy to make certain that the workers in this country will never have a voice or someone, some institution to protect their rights. And we are seeing it. We have seen what have taken place 3 years ago when the unions in this country would have marched with capital. Can you imagine that? The unions in this country marched with capital to bring down a government. And if anyone in this audience understands what I'm saying, there is nothing comparable to a union and an employer. We have no likeness besides working for a wage. The interests are different. And what we saw after that, when the unions decided that they wanted to march, what did the private sector tell them? We are not going to be part of that. They were on their own. And if you think we would have learned from that, we haven't learned from it. What has happened that only recently, coming out of a private sector meeting, the Prime Minister surrounds herself with the leaders of the trade union movement and then asks them, do you all agree with what is happening in this country with the nurses? And in one course, they all said no. It is unheard of. No union goes against another union. Whether you agree or not, every union has a legitimate reason, as long as it's a bona fide union, to look after and represent their members as they are deemed fit. And that is all the leaders of the unions at the time needed to say. But you know what's more appalling? She decided to dot their salaries. And once again, the leaders of these unions in this country said nothing. How could you be leading people and allow an employer to dock an employee's salary and say absolutely nothing? This is what this country has come to. We are suffering because of the ineptness of the trade union movement. And so what are we seeing? They're being rewarded with trinkets of JPs because they would have done the bidding of the government. Where are we going in this country? It is time we try to pull back what is happening. But tonight is the night I would love to be able to speak more. But the time is short. And so Brother Eswick is here, and Brother Michael is here as well. And so we need to get those guys on the podium as soon as possible. So, Michael is there? So the first one we're going to introduce is Brother Michael Lashley, the person who would have started or restarted the housing revolution in this country. Under the 500 lots program, we've built a number of houses in a number of areas all across Barbados, from St. Peter to Christchurch. We did them in St. Philip, and we did some in St. John. We had lands all over Barbados that allowed ordinary persons to be able to secure a house, which is one of the most important things in any Barbadian lives. And so, Brother Lashley will come and debunk the myth that these 3,000 houses will be built in 5 years from a party that cannot even build 100 in 1 year. So, for anything to do, Brother Lashley, it's all up to you.
And Philip Note, Michael Lashley represent you. So don't remember, step out early and vote. Cause you know when you go out and vote, that's how you're gonna get your support. Haha. DLP on ready. Yes. St. Philip Not on ready. Yes. Church Village Crew on ready. Yes. Vote for Michael, vote for Michael, vote for Michael Lash. Lily, vote for Michael, vote for Michael, vote for Michael Lash. Lily, call them the boss, the poor people governor. Man with the plan for each and every one. Mike is ready for your situation. Come everybody join hand in hand. DLP for this election. Vote for Michael, vote for Michael, vote for Michael Lash. Lily, vote for Michael, vote for Michael, vote for Michael Lash. Lily, yes, the Bay feel massive, them ready. And the Long Bay family, they ready. You see Merrick, the whole of them ready. Molly feel and Man Creek ready. Eastbourne and Ticket, them ready. You say Yard and Bushy Park ready. Blaze Hill, Parish Land, Lynch is ready. Riverland, Duncan, Lucas Street ready. Big West 40s, Q them ready. So vote for Michael, vote for Michael. Them no see it when Michael a pass. Election him a go win that fast. When them a talk when them come lost. Michael the winner, him a the winner. Yes, him a the winner, him a the winner. Michael the winner, him a the winner. Yes, him a the winner, him a the winner. Yeah, 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 yeah.
Good night. I love this crowd. I'm here in support of the candidate and your next representatives, Mr. Neil Marshall. I ran in Darwin, or we will call him underwear.
Oh Lord!
Out of St. Philip North. And now there's a new marshal in town that will kick him out of St. Philip South.
Yeah! Yeah!
They had a meeting last night in 6 Roads. Sorry. And that long dose of salt, Scary Simmons, was out there seeking to derail and in some instances defame people and defame some of the candidates of the Democratic Labour Party. But if I want to get a lawyer who specializes in domestic violence, I will seek the services of Mr. Kerry Simmons because he's very experienced in those matters as a lawyer. But it's my intention tonight to speak on some matters that concern you and that should concern you. Because this election is about saving democracy. And you have a duty to save this country from dictatorship. You have to save it from dictatorship. Parliament is now in existence without any checks and balances on the power of the front bench. And you will be surprised of the type and pieces of legislation that's gone through Parliament, and your representative up here, if you ask him to explain the pieces of legislation, in particular the debt settlement arrears bill, I don't think he's in a position to explain it to you. In fact, I don't feel he understands it. Because when a government can pass a piece of legislation that they could acquire your property that you work hard for, property that you would need to even use as collateral to send your children to university to get a loan, or even to get a loan to improve your standard of living, the government now has passed a bill that then can acquire your land and pay you some 44 months thereafter in respect of bonds. No cash. Because previously, when I was Minister of Housing, and we see a piece of land that we believe is suitable for housing, for the public purpose of housing, we would then write to the landowner and request his cooperation. Now, if there's cooperation, then we utilize what we call a private treaty under the Land Acquisition Act. If there's an unwilling landowner, we then go to Parliament and compulsory acquire the land for public purpose. Under the Land Acquisition Act, that landowner is entitled to compensation, fair compensation within a reasonable time. That compensation will be in the form of a check from the government as compensation. But the government now has moved away from that. And in this act, because people would like to believe when politicians come to understand that they come out here to hoodwink, tell lies, but we are not into that. I have the law here. Look at this here. Passed by this government, signed on to by Indariel, signed on to by, well, the doctor up there, the missing person, signed on to by John King. Well, he didn't understand this. This is not a calypso. So they signed on to this piece of legislation that gave the government power to take up your land.
Yeah!
And pay you in bonds. And you know what the law, you know what they say? In the schedule to the act, let me talk to you all, man. Let me talk to you. In the schedule to this act, it is, my voice is going a little bit. I got to suck some fishermen friends, some mints and get some lemon. I got to see the Dr. Eswit later to preserve my voice. But in this schedule, you imagine you know what you believe that Indari should have the audacity, the temerity, and the unmitigated gall to walk about this constituency and ask you for a vote after signing on to this? You know that the government is saying to you, no interest. 42 months from the day. Oh, this is honey. Water. I can sip it. Because things getting hot out here.
Hey!
Good night to Conrad Richard Seeley. Welcome to St. Philip South. But this piece of legislation, to my humble opinion, is so illegal and unconstitutional that this cannot result in fair compensation whatsoever. That if you go out there and vote for the Barbados Labour Party, you're consenting and conspiring with the Barbados Labour Party to take up your property, take up your family's property. That this is the piece of legislation that you should remind your brother, remind your sister, remind your grandchildren about. But it doesn't stop there. But how can a government can walk about and speak about how they have passed the Freehold Tenantry Act, engaging citizens in becoming part of the property owning democracy, and then in one hand, passing a piece of legislation that impact on the property rights of the average citizen in Barbados? But it doesn't stop there. The act also, if you go up top here, the pavilion there, and you happen to fall down, got an injury, and you decided, look, I'm going to put the government in court, and the government accept liability for the personal injuries that you sustain. Your lawyer then send in a claim, and you know when it comes to get your money, the government is saying, no, you're getting paid bonds, no interest, subjected again to the same time period with respect to your land. And this is what Indaria signed on to. This is what Indaria signed on to. But I'm just giving an example of the threat to democracy. The dictatorship that exists in this country. I want to, when you place your X for Mr. Neil Marshall, that is an X for your freedom. And that is an X to protect your fundamental rights as guaranteed under the Constitution of Barbados. And the Constitution is the supreme law of the land. Your constitutional rights threatened daily by this administration. You know, not one of them have come and explained this or defended this piece of legislation. So I want you to go to your numbers. Vote for Neil Marshall, the real Marshall. Because you know that St. Philip, for those 3 years, had the worst representatives ever. You imagine turning on your radio and listening to John King. When John King got up in the houses and started to speak, I use that as a time for toilet break. And then you come to Sonia Brown. Again, she has a record for over the 3 years of speaking only 7 times. And the longest time was for 10 minutes. So, we have to replace these and purge them with true representation, stronger representation. Representatives that will stand up for your rights and fight on your behalf. I ask you on the 19th of January to go to your numbers, vote for the Democratic Labour Party, because this is a movement and a journey for justice. Good night, ladies and gentlemen. I have to go to Bushy Park. There's a cemetery up there that you have to put Sonia Brown in.
Good night, ladies and gentlemen.
Yes, ladies and gentlemen, as I told you when I started this meeting, that the Barbados Labour Party is being prosecuted right here at District S, Rice's, St. Philip, and that prosecution shall continue. If the time was not so short, we would have had much more that we could tell you tonight, but we will get another opportunity to come back to you. What is known for sure is that on the 19th, you will go to your numbers, put on your mask and carry along all on the sanitizers, because we have to guard ourselves against the new variant, the Motley variant. It is deadly, and you have to guard yourself against it. We hope that by the pen and paper that will mark the X on the 19th, we shall be able to rid ourselves of this variant. My next speaker, ladies and gentlemen, I've had the pleasure of working with him in the Ministry of Tourism at the airport. And I must tell you that in 2018 and the years prior, this is the man that kept the Barbados economy alive and stable. It was tourism that continued his innovative work in the ministry that kept tourism going. We continued from 2008 to 18 to have record numbers in tourism until these things come along and destroy the whole industry. But now, I'm going to bring a gentleman to you that has been responsible for your economy being so lively between 2008 and 18. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Richard Seeley.
Well, when the best with Marsha, I can tell. Well, Sealy no land. Walk for Sealy and breathe. Walk for Sealy and breathe. He's the man for me. Walk for Sealy and breathe. Walk for Sealy and breathe. Unemployment high, people brat. Richard Sealy not to put the people in check. No long talk, we doing this correct. Things gonna happen and moves gonna match. Jobs must come cause the people gonna work. Schools gonna over cause the children must learn. Cost of living is my main concern, cause I know get beyond my money done burn. So breathe. Walk the Sealy and breathe. He's the man for me. Walk the Sealy and breathe. Walk the Sealy and breathe. Walk the Sealy and breathe. Walk the Sealy and
Thank you, Mr. DJ, for the extended. I thought you wanted me to sing at one point. Special greetings to the people of Rice's, the people of this wonderful parish of St. Philip. Always a pleasure to be here. And indeed, let me start off by not only encouraging you to vote for Comrade Marshall, Neil Marshall, always for you, but let me also commend him for most innovative. I will have to call this a super spot meeting, because this isn't really a spot meeting, a drive-in spot meeting. Oh, sorry, that's my mask there that gone playing ready. But that kind of innovation will tell you that he definitely needs to be in Parliament. I think the people of St. Philip South should be happy to have someone who's coming up with innovative ways of bringing a message to you, and not innovative ways on how to carry away the taxpayers' money. And I think it's important, of course, that we have integrity in public life. And I can speak to that in a minute. I have to start with something that is near and dear to my heart, and I suspect to many people who are listening. You may be in one of the surrounding homes here, very handsomely acquitted. And the truth is, I'm talking about the Sam Lord's Castle project. We had worked hard at the ministry when I was there to bring that project back, and to bring it back in a very innovative way in terms of the Green Globe standards, in terms of the suites that were planned, in terms of creating something very special that was going to employ at least 1,100 people, many of them from this parish. $300 million investment. And the Sam Lord's Castle in its previous incarnation did a lot for this parish. Many people were able to develop themselves to become independent. Many a boy went there to work and became a man. Many a girl, yes, I know, Fergie, you were one, went there as a girl and became a woman. It was an anchor of economic development in this parish. And we were pushing it on that basis as well. What it was doing for the community, an anchor for this community. And for whatever reason, this government came to office, and rather than recognize a good effort and try to make it better, they were convinced that something untoward was going on, and they shut it down. And only recently now, it has restarted. And that is unfortunate, because all now, we should have people staying there. See airplanes taking off. That don't happen so regular these days, but it's still good to see that we have a few tourists here and there. But they would be able to stay at Sam Lord's Castle if it was allowed to continue. But no, it wasn't. And that seems to be a major problem with this government. The inability to attract foreign direct investment. I am told that the last government fell short in many respects. Some even said that there's something that we should be sorry about. But if that's the case, explain to me why we had so much investment in the tourism sector and we haven't had anything since then. By the way, those 44 rooms that were recently opened in St. Lawrence Gap Ocean 2, that started before the change in government. So the planning permits and everything else was started before. And everything. I had the shock of my life. Well, don't have it with me, but the Barbados Labour Party manifesto actually mentions sandals. You could imagine that? And Hayat? Well, I can't believe it. Unbelievable projects that they brutally criticize. They brutally criticize. They are now trying to anchor their, well, economic program on elements that they were opposed to. And that is only in keeping with this general trend of where nothing new has really been started by this government. And you know, they have the unmitigated gall to try to reap what they haven't sowed. I couldn't believe the list in the manifesto about what the blue economy has done in the port. They actually mentioned in promises and performance that they put new equipment, including a gantry crane. Well, on the floor of the house, they said that we didn't buy a scanner because we were purchasing equipment, criticized us But the reason why so much guns are in Barbados, they actually said this, because there's no scanner in the port, because Richard Seeley bought forklifts and so instead. We had to upgrade equipment that was 20 plus years old in order that we could have what was necessary. 95% of what is imported in Barbados comes through the port. And you had very old, dilapidated equipment, plus we had a vision of Barbados becoming a logistics hub, and that would require equipment. It is true that we did have a scanner for containers, and we were planning to get another one. But it is not true to say that this government is responsible for that, or the Port Authority building, the new building. That was done under our administration. But they actually have it in their document under promises and performance. I mean, that is larceny. That's what it is, stealing something that doesn't belong to you. But again, it shouldn't surprise us, because what was the fundamental plank of the Barbados Labour Party government upon assuming office in 2018? What was the major campaign issue? And the fundamental plank, according to them, it was the issue of integrity. And job number one was integrity legislation. And 3.5 years later, we only got one in the ask you where it is, where the integrity legislation is. We can't find it. They say it ran away somewhere between the lower house and the upper house, and somehow be searching and searching like red plastic bag trying to find Winston Hall. We can't find the integrity legislation, and that's what they said was ever so important because of the so-called corrupt government. This corrupt government that's so corrupt, they haven't prosecuted a single member of the last administration. Oh, Lord! And they can't come with anything now. We didn't want to hear about anything now. And this red bag, calling my name, calling Lashley's name, calling Eswick's name, and digging into the red bag. Well, the problem is, you see, and I'm glad to see Walter Maloney knocking around here, because he will tell you, when you treat public officers bad, they tend to feed information to you. So you see, I got not a red bag, I got a red file that fall off the back of a truck. And the red file is telling me a few things. So, what the boss say? Oh Lord, the red file is asking some questions. So the Prime Minister can put out her red bag, but she has some questions to answer as well in the red file. And I got, look, you see the treasury string on it? Government of Barbados. The red file. Who paid for the electric buses? That's the first question. Who paid for the electric buses and why? Answer that question. And while you're at it, you want to know, why is it the first set shackling out already? You can answer that question. But they got other things in here too. The problem is when you mistreat people, they tend to furnish you with information. And so we got questions as well too. We have a lot of questions that we can ask. Answers are few and far in between. The White Oak deal. Tell us the truth about the White Oak deal. And why are the fees so exorbitant for a job that could have been done differently? And what have we really got out of this White Oak arrangement? And why is it the local consultants, the public service, and indeed the officials from the IMF could not have crafted that program where the debt to GDP has not improved? It's gotten worse. So these are some of the questions that we have to ask. And again, there's more to come. So when you bring out your red bag, you need to pull some other things out from in there. Because we certainly had a difficult situation to manage, and somehow we managed still to do a number of things. Why is it's so difficult to get a housing program going? Tell us the truth about those Chinese houses as well too. It's here, you know. I'm giving them the chance. They got one going up at the top of Scott's Gap in Britain's Hill. I couldn't believe chipboard being stapled to metal framing. In this, everybody knows, man. When I would ask get a little taste of that, you know what that house gonna look like in a hurry. I mean, I don't know who could really bring that kind of structure down here. But there's more to that story as well. Tell us about that. And maybe if the truth about some of these sordid deals comes to light, we will understand why it is the Prime Minister has said this is her last toss. Don't worry. You really think that you can just ride off into the sunset, leave us in billions of dollars in debt? You know, this government is bragging about reserves when all of the reserves, the result of borrowed money. But what's the point? That's like saying you have a whole set of money on your savings account after you had to take out a loan to put it there. Well, you're no better off. But that kind of illogical foolishness trying to shove down the throats of Barbadians and calling it economic management, you know. But even basic, an understanding of even how basic household management works, you will know that it is foolishness. Government of impressions, giving the impression that they're doing ever so well, but we know better. Ladies and gentlemen, at this stage, as we are days away from the day, I only urge you and plead with you to come out in your numbers on the 19th of January and support Neil Marshall in St. Philip South. Look forward to serving with him. And I also want to encourage you as well, support Dr. David Eswick, St. Philip West. And of course, Mr. Michael Lashley, QC, among other things, in St. Philip North. Yeah! We have a solid St. Philip team. It is my real joy to be here braving the stiff St. Philip breeze to endorse all three of them. And for those of you who are journeying from further afield, support the Democratic Labour Party candidates wherever you are. There is a movement in this land. The people of Barbados want the Democratic Labour Party, and we are ready to stand up and to serve them. Let us reject the foolishness that is coming from the other side. I am personally disappointed, and I'm sure you are. Yeah! All we're getting is a lot of name calling. One would have thought that a government calling an election early at a time like this would have been talking about the recent decision to become a republic and the new Republican Constitution, talking about the pandemic, how we're going to get through that, talking about the IMF program that is coming to an end, and these harsh measures that the IMF is calling for. That should be their concern. But no, Prime Minister is taking the microphone and running up and down on the stage like Little Rick performing, just cursing everybody, in particular those of us who have decided out of love of country to come back and serve once again. So let's reject that and let's accept and endorse the Democratic Labour Party team in 2022, and let's vote early, stay safe, and let's continue with the Democratic Labour Party movement. God bless all of you. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you, Brother Richard. It's clear that we must come back to St. Philip and give chapter and verse as to what is happening in this country. We are running short of time, so I would like to introduce the man of the hour, the man who is going to take this seat back and make the people of St. Philip South feel happy again, feel wanted again, feel like if we are part of a larger family that's about to do something that's significant to move this country forward. Ladies and gentlemen, it gives me the greatest pleasure to introduce the next representative of St. Philip South, Mr. Neil Marshall.
Good night, ladies and gentlemen of Rices. Thank you, everyone, for coming out to hear me tonight, and thank all of the previous speakers for lending me their support. And I pledge not only to them and the family of the Democratic Labour Party, but to you, the residents of St. Philip South, that I will endeavor to do my best once I am elected on the 19th of this month, and you will have new and good representation. Now, this constituency has for the last 3.5 years suffered from the type of absentee representation that does not lend itself to anyone reposing confidence in the current representative. And of course, as I walk the length and breadth of this constituency, the cry has been the same from as far as Long Bay Road in the east, right down to Rock Hall. And it has been that the current representative has been missing in action. I don't have to say anything more about that. I'm a constituent, and I too have experienced that down in Four Roads where I am from. But enough has been said about him by the other speakers, the previous speakers. And tonight is the night that I will speak to you, the people of St. Philip South, about the policies and programs not only of the Democratic Labour Party, but the various policies and programs that I intend to bring to this constituency. I canvassed only today in this Rice's area, and I had the opportunity to speak to some of the young men through Gully Road, and it was very interesting because their experience mirrors that of what has been occurring throughout this constituency, and that is lack of economic activity to allow them to participate so that they may not only support themselves, but that they begin the journey that all of us look forward to doing, that is of starting a family and supporting that family. The other aspect that has been burning for them has been the lack of recreational activities. It is not sufficient that they should have a pavilion here, but that they should also have, as they've experienced in the past, a structured environment through which they can have as an outlet and a productive and a meaningful outlet for their sporting activities. So that even though that you have this playing field here, it has not been utilized in the manner that one would expect that a piece of infrastructure such as this would be utilized for. And much of that has to do with the lack of support by the current representative, the lack of encouragement, and the lack of direction in pointing these young people and the leaders within this community towards the various agencies of state that could facilitate and assist with such activities. The better use of the National Sports Council and its staff to provide technical support, and indeed calling upon the various businesses within St. Philip to lend their support, their financial support, towards these activities. Now, previously we had very vibrant football competitions for prize money, cricket competitions, not only inter-constituency, but also inter-parish competitions. And all of that has gone off of the landscape. And we cannot continue to blame COVID, because when this administration came to office in 2018, there was no COVID-19. And there were vibrant activities that were allowed to just simply fall away into oblivion simply because of lack of support. And it is my intention to revive the activity within these communities so that we may secure the future of our youth. And that future can only be secured by providing mentorship, not only in terms of sporting activities, but also mentorship in the provision of advice and encouragement and facilitation in them being able to partake in various activities of an economic nature. Now, you have a situation where one of the leading hotels, the Crane Beach, and as Richard just spoke about the Sam Lord's Castle project, which this current administration delayed by at least 2 years, and for no good reason other than spitefulness that it was the Democratic Labour Party that led the initiative for the creation and the rebuilding of that hotel. And while now in the year 2022, the residents of Rice's and the residents of all of Bel Air, Seaview, Crane, and so on could have been benefiting from that hotel, they now have to wait for at least another 2 to 3 years until it has been completed. You have the Crane Beach Hotel, which has provided a number of opportunities for residents, and similar to how Sam Lawrence would, a large number of persons find employment in that Crane Beach. But we don't only want to be employees. The people of St. Philip South deserve to be part of the economic activity that is derived from that same hotel, so that a place such as Foul Bay, which remains one of the remaining natural beaches and habitations, is very much underutilized. And I am proposing and will lobby that the Foul Bay Beach should become a part of the National Park System of Barbados, and that it should be developed in such a manner that it could lend itself to economic activity by the residents of these communities. The first order of business, of course, has to be paying attention to the infrastructure. The road at Foul Bay is now nothing more than a cart road. And it has gotten to the stage where tour buses, who in times past used to go down there for the tourists and so on to take their pictures and to walk the beach and so on, have now stopped from doing that. And because of the serious deterioration of Crane Beach, which is now no longer the once beautiful stretch and expanse of beach that it used to be, Foul Bay is ripe for development. And it is the intention of the Democratic Labour Party, at my urgings, that we should develop Foul Bay so that it can bring economic activity and breathe further life into these communities. As I said before, we should not be satisfied as being only employees. We must also become owners and entrepreneurs. Already, you see that there's been some light activity outside of the Crane Beach, where that land has now become prime commercial real estate. I don't think that there's been any change in the land prices, but those people, those residents right on the frontage of Crane Beach, have an excellent opportunity to create a different experience than the all-inclusive experience which those persons in the Crane Beach Hotel currently enjoy. And that can be replicated if the Foul Bay Beach is developed. It needs a new road. It needs a proper forecourt car park. Of course, it needs lighting. It needs a permanent lifeguard station, even though it is not traditionally a bathing beach. And it needs a full-time presence of NCC staff to ensure that it is kept clean and that it is not abused by persons who have taken to dumping. It is also creates an opportunity. It has a nice trail along the cliff front, and it is sufficiently large enough that it can have picnic tables and benches and even a play park, much in the same way that Silver Sands and several of the other beach facilities such as Whole Town have been developed. Of course, it includes bathroom facilities. And we really need to, while on the one hand, retaining the beauty of Foul Bay as part of the national park system, develop it in such a way that it does not inhibit or damage that national park environment. And that is what we really need to do in St. Philip South. The other area that we can look at and that we have decided to look at, and myself, Dr. Eswick, and Michael Lashley have examined the Six Roads commercial hub, because that commercial hub in Six Roads will be the new Warren, so to speak, of the East. It is ripe for development, and it has started in a very much ad hoc manner. Now, a number of persons have complained and said, well, but that does not encompass this constituency. Well, just to inform those residents who might be doubtful, your constituency runs to encompass the gas station and Emerald Park East. So you are indeed in Six Roads, and you, from being in Six Roads, should have part of the commercial stake in Six Roads. At present, what you have in Six Roads is a situation where every commune that you can think about, including the Chinese, have taken up all of the prime commercial space in Six Roads.
Yeah! Yeah!
And that cannot be fair to the residents of St. Philip South, St. Philip West, or St. Philip North. And as it stands, we have found ourselves scorching on a marly, dusty area, formerly known and still known as Springerland. And that is simply not good enough for the people of St. Philip. We must have better. And prior to leaving office in 2018, when I worked for Dr. Eswick, and alongside Dr. Eswick, we had already begun plans for the development of that area. Indeed, we had met with the technocrats at the Ministry of Transport and Works, the various officials at the Sanitation Service Authority, the Barbados Light and Power, as well as personnel at the Barbados Water Authority. Indeed, I can clearly remember that meeting because members of the fire service were also there. Such was the depth of involvement of the Democratic Labour Party and the commitment to developing that piece of real estate that we had involved all the stakeholders that were necessary to bring some sort of plan and fruition. Indeed, I can say to you, ladies and gentlemen, tonight, that there are architectural plans residing somewhere in the Ministry of Transport and Works in the possession of the Chief Technical Officer that outline all of the plans that the Democratic Labour Party had for that area. And those plans included you, the ordinary man and woman in Rice's. You, therefore, must do what is necessary come on the 19th of January to ensure that those plans that we had for 6 roads, those plans which we now have for Foul Bay, are bring to fruition and continued. And you can only do that by going to the polls and making an X next to the name of Neil Marshall in St. Philip South, an X next to the name of David Eswick in St. Philip West, and an X right next to the name of Michael Lashley in St. Philip North.
Yeah! Yeah!
You also must include all of the other candidates throughout the length and breadth of Barbados, so that come the 19th of this month, that the Democratic Labour Party can be returned to office to continue the work, as Richard said earlier, that it had begun in earnest and was in train, but which was brought to a screeching halt and subsequently abandoned by what one could only describe as sheer wickedness. Now, ladies and gentlemen, we have a limited time here. We have, I wouldn't say overstayed or welcome, because I know that I am very much welcome in this constituency. That will be proven on the 19th of January. But we've had the forbearance of the officials of the National Sports Council, and I want to thank them. But before I close, I shall be sending out a manifesto for you, the residents of St. Philip South, so that you can have a view of the policies and programs that I have in store for you when the Democratic Labour Party is returned to office. So, ladies and gentlemen, I once again want to urge you, I beseech you, to come 6 a.m. on the 19th, Wednesday the 19th, to, in your numbers, take your household, take your neighbors, take your friends to your assigned polling station. And if you can't take them and they can't get there, you call that constituency office down there on Curtin's Main Road. We will come and get you. And go and make that X next to the name of Neil Marshall for St. Philip South. And make that X next to the name of every candidate of the Democratic Labour Party. So that we can continue the work that we had left off in May 2018, and that we can provide a bright future for you, the people of Barbados, and you, the people of St. Philip West. And remember that this is one people, one Barbados. I thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah! Yeah!
Turn upside down, yeah, yeah, yeah. I've been cast aside and been despised. But I'm Daniel in the lion's den, Jonah in the belly of the whale. I'm not alone, so I cannot fail. No, 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 and I'm born to win.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for coming out tonight. Yes, we have to finish. It's after 10. And I think the police was kind of accommodating to allow us another 10 minutes. But clearly, you've heard from the representative, and I said representative of St. Philip South. You have heard of his plans for the area. And I think all of us are excited, especially those of us who live in this area and will frequent the Foul Bear Beach, and that facility, once that is done, will surely bring some economic relief to this area. So brothers and sisters, friends of the Democratic Labour Party, persons who were watching us online and who followed the meeting, get home safely, God bless, and on the 19th, St. Philip coming back to DLP.
One Barbados for you and me, we going with DLP. DLP for all of we going with DLP. One Barbados for you and me, we going with DLP. DLP for all of we.
I'm Neil Marshall, candidate for the Democratic Labour Party in the constituency of St. Philip South, and I'm here today at Foul Bay. This area of Foul Bay presents an excellent opportunity for persons from this constituency to find their own self-employment. I have some plans for this beach once elected come the 19th of January as the new representative for this constituency. Part of those plans include making a very strenuous lobby that this beach be now included as part of the National Park System of Barbados, and to have its facilities developed so that not only can people from the constituency of St. Philip South or St. Philip enjoy them, but indeed that the entire of Barbados can enjoy this most beautiful and pristine piece of real estate. That presents as well an opportunity for small entrepreneurs who rent out things like beach chairs, umbrellas and so on, and of course you have the beach vendors selling various arts and crafts. This provides an excellent opportunity for them to ply their trade. One of the first things that has to be done with Foul Bay is to ensure that the access to Foul Bay is there for all persons, whether they're pedestrians, whether they are drivers or cyclists, whoever. The road is in possibly the most deplorable state. Parking Bay, for example, is now reduced to just simply rubble, and that cannot be conducive to persons visiting this area. It remains one of the most beautiful places in Barbados. Indeed, it is certainly beautiful and unspoiled. And as I said, I'm lobbying to have it as part of the National Park System. And once that occurs, well then, of course, you can expect that the infrastructure will have to be developed so that not only does it facilitate visitors, but at the same time it does not encroach upon the natural beauty of this area. You need a proper hard surface so that persons can traverse in and out of this Foul Bay beach. Secondly, although it's not traditionally a bathing beach, there still is the need for bathroom facilities inclusive of shower facilities. Not only is it a picnic area, it also provides an area for exercise for many of the residents of St. Philip, and indeed as far as Christchurch, to get the early morning breeze and the sunrise and so on. Residents of St. Philip South and wider Barbados, you have the opportunity on the 19th of January to make 2022 a much happier year than 2021 by going out in your numbers and voting for the Democratic Labour Party, and in St. Philip South voting for Neil Marshall as your representative.
Biggity. The best pick is S-Wing. The best pick is S-Wing. The best pick is S-Wing. Tell me who's the best pick? David S-Wing. Make way for the people's champ, the only ones in Philip West one. Tell me who's the best pick? David S-Wing. St. Philip people know this is true. S-Wing always for you. Tell me who's the best pick? David S-Wing. In transport and water, agriculture, economic affairs, he helped build this nation for years. He sweat yellow